Ladies and gentlemen, as you stand now at a moment you did not plan, at a point you could not have fully foreseen, but there is one who knew it from the beginning. It was not random, it was not by chance. It has been written, it has been appointed, it has been set. God said it is all planned for the end of April, not by the hands of men, not by the winds of fortune, but by the will of the Almighty. Every delay you faced, every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every broken piece, every step you took when you could not see the road ahead, none of it was wasted. None of it was forgotten. It was part of a greater design, a holy orchestration. The battles that wearied you, the nights that seemed unending, the burdens that bent your shoulders low, all of them were preparing you for a moment, for a fulfillment, for a breakthrough that was sealed in the heart of God before you ever breathed your first breath. You thought it was over. You thought it was too late. You thought the promise had faded into the mist of forgotten dreams. But the promise was never dead. It was waiting for the appointed time, waiting for the moment when heaven's clock would strike its hour. The end of April is not the end of hope. It is the manifestation of it. It is the convergence of everything you could not understand into a tapestry you will behold with awe. The struggle you endured will be the testimony you proclaim. The wounds you suffered will be the doors through which His glory pours out. When you see it unfold, you will remember that it was never your strength that sustained you, but His hand. You will look back on the road you traveled and realize you were being carried even when you thought you were crawling. Every prayer you thought was lost was stored in the bowls of heaven. Every tear you shed was caught by the hand that holds the stars. You are not abandoned. You are not forsaken. You are standing in the very midst of divine strategy. It is not falling apart. It is falling into place. It was all planned for the end of April. Stand firm, for the appointed time is at hand. Watch, and you will see what the hand of God can do. God's timing is perfect. Every event, delay, and struggle was orchestrated by God, not random. Everything was leading toward a planned moment at the end of April. Your trials were preparation. The hardships, unanswered prayers, and burdens you faced were not meaningless. They were shaping and preparing you for the fulfillment of His promise. Breakthrough is imminent. What seemed dead or delayed is about to manifest. The end of April marks the appointed time when hidden promises will come to life. God's hand has been guiding you all along. Even when you felt abandoned or weak, God was sustaining, carrying, and working behind the scenes according to His divine plan. There are no accidents in the journey you have walked, no step you have taken, no tear you have shed, no silent night you have endured was ever hidden from the sight of God. Every moment, every breath, every challenge has been seen, counted, and woven into a plan greater than you can comprehend. It was never random. It was never forgotten. From the first day to this very hour, it has all been leading somewhere sacred. God's timing is not like ours. We measure in seconds, days, and months, but He moves according to eternity. When you thought you were delayed, you were being prepared. When you believed you were forgotten, you were actually being positioned. The struggles that seemed to stop you were actually setting you apart. The doors that slammed shut were not punishments, they were protections. The prayers that seemed unanswered were not ignored, they were reserved for a greater fulfillment at the appointed hour. You are standing closer to the breakthrough than you realize. The end of April is not just a page on the calendar, it is a marker in the heavenly record. Long before you faced your first trial, long before you prayed your first prayer, God had already written the solution. He had already sealed the blessing. He had already destined the fulfillment. And now, as the days draw near, what was hidden will be revealed. What was delayed will be released. What seemed impossible will be made possible because His timing is perfect. You may not have seen it, but heaven has been working. Angels have been dispatched. Walls have been trembling. Chains have been weakening. The enemy thought he could discourage you, delay you, defeat you, but he could not touch what God has appointed. Your destiny is not in the hands of men, nor is it subject to the chaos of the world. It is anchored in the unshakable, immovable will of the Almighty. So do not fear the waiting. Do not curse the delay. Every second that passed was ordained. Every obstacle that rose was allowed for your good. Every unanswered question was a place where faith was forged in fire. And now, with the appointed time at hand, you will see the wisdom of every turn, the purpose in every pain, the glory behind every closed door. He says, trust me, I was never late, I was never absent, I was always preparing the way. And now the way will open. The promise will come into view. The fulfillment you thought was lost is still alive in his hands. The plan is unfolding even now, even as you wait, even as you hope. At the end of April, you will look back and realize God's timing was not just good, it was perfect. Would you also like a version that's slightly more emotional or prophetic in tone? It depends on how deep or intense you want the speech to feel. Nothing you have endured was wasted. Not a single hardship, not a single sleepless night, not a single burden you carried alone was without purpose. In the unseen workings of God, your trials were not signs of abandonment. They were instruments of preparation. Every struggle, every unanswered prayer, every broken moment was shaping you, refining you, molding you into the vessel that could carry the promise that He had prepared for you. We often mistake hardship for punishment. We look at the delays and the denials and wonder if we have been forgotten. But heaven sees differently. In the eyes of God, what looks like delay is often training. What feels like loss is often construction. He was not removing you from the promise. He was making you ready for it. He was building the strength you would need to stand when the blessing comes. He was forging a deeper trust that could withstand the weight of glory. When you walked through the valleys, you learned to lean not on your own strength, but on His. When you cried out in the midnight hour with no answer in sight, your spirit was being anchored in something deeper than feelings. Anchored in faith. When you faced doors that refused to open, you were being taught perseverance. A perseverance that would not crumble when the true door swung wide. The burdens you carried in secret, the disappointments that no one else saw were not meaningless. They were part of a holy process. Like a seed buried deep in the ground, hidden and unseen, your spirit was being cultivated in the darkness. Roots were growing stronger beneath the surface. Character was being forged in silence. And now as the season shifts, the seed that endured the storms will break through the soil into the light. You have been prepared for more than survival. You have been prepared for victory. You have been equipped to not just step into the promise, but to stand firm within it, to carry the blessing without losing your soul, to walk in the fulfillment without forgetting the one who brought you there. The unanswered prayers taught you that He is enough, even when you don't see the answer. The betrayals taught you that your identity is in Him, not in the approval of men. The losses taught you that true treasure is never found in the things of this world, but in the presence of God Himself. All of it, every single moment was preparation for the destiny set before you. Now the time draws near. The end of April is not just an ending, it is a birthing. The trials you endured were the labor pains of a new beginning. The tears you cried were watering the very ground where the promise will bloom. You have been prepared, not abandoned. You have been refined, not rejected. And when you step into what God has ordained, you will see it clearly. Every trial was a chisel in the hand of the Master, carving you into the vessel ready to receive the fullness of His promise. Would you also like a second version that's even more poetic or intense, depending on your final style choice? It could add even more emotional power if you want it. The waiting has not been in vain. The silence has not meant absence. Though it seemed as if the promises were buried and forgotten, they have been alive, growing beneath the surface, waiting for the appointed hour. That hour is drawing near. What was delayed is about to manifest. What seemed dead is about to rise. The breakthrough is imminent. The end of April is not just a date on a calendar. It is a divine appointment. It is the moment when the hidden things will be revealed, when the prayers you thought were forgotten will erupt into fulfillment. You are not moving toward an end. You are moving toward a beginning, a birth of what was conceived long ago in the heart of God. You may have looked around and seen nothing change. You may have grown weary from holding on to hope when every sign seemed to shout against it. But in the unseen realm, the ground has been shifting. The barriers have been weakening. The doors have been unlocking. Heaven has been setting the stage for a revelation that will not delay one moment longer than it is meant to. The dry season is coming to its conclusion. The long nights of wrestling are giving way to a morning of answered prayer. What you thought was buried is not dead. It has been planted. And now the season of harvest is at hand. You'll see life where there was barrenness. You will see joy where there was mourning. You will see rivers flow in places that had become deserts. Breakthrough is not just something that will happen around you, it will happen within you. The faith that survived the trial is about to erupt into vision. The perseverance that pushed through the silence is about to taste the fruit of its endurance. The dreams you dared to still believe, even with trembling hands, will be crowned with fulfillment. You are standing at the threshold of destiny. You are closer than you have ever been. Every disappointment you faced was only a shadow cast by the greatness of the promise coming to meet you. Every delay was only a setup for a greater display of His power and faithfulness. The appointed time cannot be stopped. No force of darkness can delay what God has decreed. No human resistance can hinder what heaven has released. When God says it is time, it will be time. And the word that has hovered over your life, the word you clung to through the storms and the trials, will come to pass, not by might nor by power, but by His Spirit. The end of April will not pass like every other endings. It will mark the opening of a new chapter, the fulfillment of long-awaited promises. It will be the season where hidden seeds sprout into visible wonders. The breakthrough is not a possibility, it is a certainty, it is imminent. Prepare your heart, stand in faith, lift your eyes, for the time is now. You were never walking alone, though your eyes could not see it, though your heart sometimes doubted it. His hand was upon you. His presence was closer than your own breath. Every step you took, every path you wandered, even every stumble and fall, you were never forsaken. You were being guided by a hand unseen but unfailing. There were moments you felt abandoned. You cried out into the silence and wondered if heaven had turned its face away. You faced battles you thought would break you, burdens you thought would crush you. But even then, when your strength failed and your spirit wavered, the hand of God was holding you fast. He carried you through valleys you never thought you could cross. He shielded you from dangers you never even saw. He worked behind the scenes, weaving a tapestry of purpose through your every struggle. God's guidance does not always come with trumpets and flashing signs. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the doors that close, in the roads that suddenly turn, in the people who leave, in the opportunities that vanish. What felt like rejection was often redirection. What felt like abandonment was often a deeper calling. You were not wandering aimlessly. You were being led step by sacred step. He saw the traps the enemy set before you and steered you away even when you did not know it. He saw the storms that would have destroyed you and placed you under the shelter of His wings. He saw the days when you thought you could not go on, and it was His Spirit that breathed strength back into your soul. Even in your weakest moments, you were stronger than you knew, not because of your own power, but because His hand was beneath you. Even when you lost hope, hope did not lose you. His covenant over your life was not based on your feelings or your perfection. It was sealed by His own faithfulness. He was and is and will always be your shepherd. As the end of April approaches, you will begin to see the evidence of the path you have traveled. You will recognize that what looked like detours were actually divine shortcuts. What looked like losses were actually trades for greater glory. What looked like chaos was, in reality, choreography designed by the hand of a perfect and loving God. You will realize that He never abandoned you for a moment. You will see that in the darkest nights His light was guiding you. In the fiercest storms His hand was steadying you. And now, as you step into the fulfillment of His promise, you will know with unshakable certainty that it was not by your wisdom, not by your might, but by His loving guidance that you have come this far. It says to you now, I was with you when you thought you were alone. I was fighting for you when you had no strength left to fight. I was guiding you when you could not see the way, and I am bringing you now into the place I prepared for you from the beginning. The end of April will reveal what His hand has been working all along. Trust it. Follow it. Rest in it. His hand has never left you, and it never will. Would you also like a slightly more emotional or even deeper prophetic version of this if you're building a layered speech? It could be very powerful depending on how you want to deliver it.